Welcome to our next virtual tour. Today we're going to be looking at one of the outbuildings, the Carriage House, and we're also going to be looking at some important carriages in our collection. We're on the grounds of Maymont, the 100-acre estate of James and Sally Dooley. They lived here from 1893 through the 1920s. When they first bought the property, it was a dairy farm, so essentially a blank slate. And because it was free of all trees and buildings, they were able to transform the entire estate into a place where they could create it exactly how they wanted. Part of what they created was the view of the outbuildings. As their guests came up the main drive, the guests could look up the hill and look at all the outbuildings, and it was supposed to look like a French Normandy village. The Carriage House was at the center of this view. Many of the outbuildings were designed by the architectural firm Noland and Baskerville. They also designed the Italian garden on Maymont's property. They designed many prominent homes on Monument Avenue, and most importantly, they designed the additions to the Virginia State Capitol, the building that was originally designed by Thomas Jefferson. The Carriage House was completed in 1904. When it was in use by the Dooleys, it consisted of the carriage bays that housed the Carriage Collection. The first floor had a tack room and a very large room that housed the stalls for the 6 horses that were used for the carriages. And then on the second floor, there's a hayloft, as well as living space for the men who cared for the horses and the carriages. Today, the Carriage House is used by Maymont Foundation for offices, but there are still some remnants of when it was used as a carriage house. There's an oat cleaner, a box stall, and room for 6 standing stalls for the horses. We don't have any carriages that were originally owned by the Dooleys. They just weren't passed down through the generations. Our carriage collection was started in 1975 with a donation from Elizabeth Scott Bocock. With Miss Bocock's collection and a number of carriages that we've purchased since then, we now have a well-renowned carriage collection. And the carriages are very similar to the ones that the Dooleys would have owned in their lifetime. I'd like to turn it over to Armistead Welford. He's going to tell us a little bit more about a very special carriage in our collection.
This handsome vehicle is called a roof seat brake. The brake was derived from a European hunting vehicle in the early 1800s and had a lot of seats to accommodate hunting parties. Later, this rooftop configuration for the seats was popularized by Prince Albert for outings for the royal family. The height of these seats make a perfect mobile grandstand for going to polo matches or horse races or other sporting events. Later in America, probably football games, or in England, rugby games. Reached its popularity in the 1890s. And you can see where you would keep your whip and the basket for umbrellas and the attractive lamps. Lamps on carriages are used to be seen, not to see. The horses do the seeing at night. Now, on this side, we have the slatted panels to fit your hound. Probably big enough for a pointer. Here in the back, it probably fit a couple of Jack Russells. Now, later, when it was used for going to sporting events, this would be your tailgate. You'd probably keep your lunch or whatever things you wanted to carry with you to the races or to the matches. This is Artie. He's a retired standardbred racer.